Sportageous. Sport gets smarter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sportageous Cast, where we bring you insights into the sporting world straight from athletes, sports biz, sports professionals, and more. Our guest today is a Salvadoran native with over 30 years of experience in squash. He's also the founder of Squash Para Todos and executive director and creator of Short Wall Squash. He has spent 20 years representing the El Salvador national squash team from 1994 to 2014 and has multiple international coaching experiences in places including, of course, El Salvador, but also Costa Rica, San Diego in the USA, Tahiti, French Polynesia. Carlos Schonenberg, welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you, Sushan. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
I'm really excited to get into it, mate, because obviously I've heard about the great things you're doing in the past. We had you talk a lot about it at the Squash Summit. But just for a quick summary to people who missed out on that or haven't heard about the amazing work that you're doing with Squash Para Todos, tell me a little bit about it as a whole. You know, what's going on? What's the mission behind it, the vision?
Yeah, so Squash Para Todos is basically we were inspired 100% by the urban squash programs in the U.S. that they've been running for over 25 years. I had the chance to work at the San Diego program for a couple of months, and after my experience there, I decided to come back to El Salvador and kind of replicate and tropicalize what they're doing in the States according to the needs in the country. So we basically developed a violence prevention program where we use squash as the hook. We get kids from adverse communities, public school system, and we not only teach in squash, but we get more into their academics, values, and other life skills that can better their life chances.
Sure. So you talk about violence prevention program. What exactly does that involve? So how does squash play that hook role, and what does it enable, some of these young people to do?
So what we do is basically we open a safe space for kids from adverse communities. So instead of being at the community where they're at risk of getting recruited by a gang or drugs or whatnot, we have a safe space for them, and that's what they like. So they can come here all the afternoon, weekends, and just that will prevent them to maybe get, like I said, like recruited or something, or have them make a bad decision. And afterwards, after being here, they can see all the opportunities, the academic opportunities. We like besides pushing the sports and the academics, we also believe in traveling. Before COVID, the travel really opens up your mind, and that really inspires the kid to keep training and keep staying on school. So that's what we're trying to do. It's we no longer promote the program as a violence prevention program. It's more like a life skills program. Like, I don't like to talk about violence because violence calls up violence. So we took the word out, but that's how it started. So now we talk more about like it's a integral place where kids will learn sports and academics at the same place, and we can bring other skills to their lives, basically.
Sure. And coming to that academic side of things, what are the sort of opportunities that this provides? Obviously, you talked a little bit about creating that safe space. These the youth can come in, they can play the sport, they also get all these life skills alongside it. But how does this go hand in hand? So the squash with the academic side of things.
Yeah, so I make my job a little bit harder because the easiest thing would be just to teach squash.
Yeah.
But I know that long term, I'm not helping a kid if I only make him a squash player. Like, he needs So what we tell our kids is, what happens when your career ends? What happens if you have a career-ending injury? What happens? Like, you need to think of the worst case scenarios, and you need to have a plan B. So for us, plan B is squash, plan A is education. So what we have some partnerships. So we have a big partnership with a private school where we give academic scholarships to students. So we have had like over 25 kids with scholarships at this private school, which is a much better education than the public school system. So it's a win for the students that get that opportunity. And then we try to tie everything up with the academics. Like, traveling was tied with academic grades. Like, it wasn't only about being the best player. You could be the best player, but if you don't have the grades, or you don't have the values or the attitude or all those extras, you won't be considered. So that way we get our kids really focused on all the different areas and not only specified in squash itself. Being a professional itself at squash, you know a lot of professionals. It's really hard to be a professional squash player. So I don't want to put my kids in that position without giving them another opportunity, like a plan B. Like if that doesn't work, what else? So after the school, we're really trying to get all our kids to learn English as a basic. And that's a lot of people. It's a given, but here, like English, it's they don't get taught English at public schools. So that's a big plus, and it will open a lot of job opportunities. So we're thinking more the big picture, long term, and not really want to sell. We want our kids to dream of if they want to become a professional player, we will support them. We'll give them the training. We'll give them the equipment, but we have to ensure that they also put a lot of effort on the academic part. So we talk a lot about student athletes. That's what we want to promote, not only being athletes and not only being students. It's combining both, which is hard. If you're a really successful and a good student athlete, you need to have your schedule on point. You need to be really disciplined. It's hard, but if you can do that, after that, you can be a better professional than if you were only focused on one or the other. Mm-hmm. That's my view, our view.
No, absolutely. And, it's really interesting because we even see a lot of professional athletes who don't know what to do once their career comes to a close. So setting them up in that way, I believe, not only enables them to sort of take that path of being a player or a professional athlete, but also what's the next step, what comes after, how do I get into university? Well, I have this base set up for me. Carlos, you're obviously very, very passionate about this. And, I can tell from having heard you speak before, from the things that you do, the sort of content that comes out from Squash Para Todos' social media. You talked about the program in the US, which sort of inspired this, but what was the vision? Because there has to be something innate within a person to want to do this. What sort of motivated you or pushed you to sort of get on and do this?
Man, I don't really know. Like, I know that my family always encouraged all of us to serve others. Yeah. And I found that when you serve others, you win a lot, man. Yeah. And what really gets me into doing all this, and this I learned in the States, I thought that I was teaching kids and helping them, but they helped me more than what feels like. You get helped more. When you help, you get helped even more. So what helps me about really getting really implementing all that we just talked is that it forces me to be better. Like, if I cannot ask for a kid to be disciplined if I'm not disciplined. I cannot ask for a kid. So when I'm talking to the kids and doing all the motivational speaks and all that, like, I'm really listening to myself and trying to live up to what I'm trying to preach. So at the end of the day, I become a better person. So they help me more than. And what really fills me up is looking at all those and watching all these kids develop, like the life, like the cases we have. I wish I could be really open with a lot of the cases, but some of the cases kind of put the safety of some of our students in jeopardy because of gang-related stuff. But watching them develop and knowing and hearing from them directly that they would be dead or in a gang, and instead of they're here, they're about to graduate high school and really looking forward to going to university. They never dreamt of going to university after school. So watching all those changes, like, that's what really fills me up and encouraging me to keep doing this. But at the end, I really think that humankind in the world needs to change. Yeah. And we need to get out of ourselves more. We cannot expect governments to solve the whole problems, and we can do a difference from our own little circles or for our own little expertise areas. And that's what I'm trying to do. I won't save the world, but I can save my meter square. And if I can inspire someone else, well, I'll be more than happy. And I'm very proud that we've done that. We've inspired our other programs in Argentina to be brought up and follow our steps. And we're inspiring more people to go to the outdoors. I know we're going to talk a little bit more of the outdoors. So knowing that I'm a person that it's inspiring people, it's very inspiring. And there's no money behind what I do, or very little, but I have what I need, and for me that's enough. And I really believe that we need to make a change and share, in this case, the game of squash, which is what I know, which saved my life, and I love it, and I want to share it with more people, and sharing it through the normal ways of the normal clubs, the regular courts, it's really hard. So sharing it through a social program like this, or the courts that we built, it's giving us a better chance to reach out and share what we love with the people we serve.
Yeah, look, absolutely. You guys are doing some fantastic work there, mate. And you, like I said, you can really, really tell that the dedication and sort of what you've been able to achieve is incredible. And especially because El Salvador isn't like a squash hub of any sort or form, which makes it even more exciting to see that the game can develop there. You did touch on outdoor sort of squash and that, but before I come to that, you talked a little bit about things like gangs and bringing the youth on board. What are some of the challenges that you faced over the course of this journey? And what has been sort of the process of overcoming those?
Yeah, so the main challenge has been and will be always the financial part, like getting the donors, getting partners. And so it's been slow. It's been really slow, but slowly we're getting more partners and we're getting more people on board. So the program has been at risk since day one, because we don't have like a budget, like a year budget ready. So, but we've been blessed that we're still running, and with the work that we've done, more people trust us now, and more people are willing to help. So it takes time. It's been hard because I would have wanted a lot of the support I have since day one, but you need to build trust. You need to, because it has happened, especially in countries as ours in Latin America. There's a lot of NGOs or programs that they get a lot of money, but they don't do anything, or they steal the money, or everything goes in payroll, right? And nothing goes to their real beneficiaries. So all that has been done negatively in the past, we've been paying the bills for that, but slowly, like I said, we're there and we're still here. But to grow and make it sustainable, it's the financial part. That's why we built the outdoor courts, because the outdoor courts we do charge. We have a hybrid system basically there. We have like a part of the day it's for our program, like for the kids from the public school system, and then we have a private part which is oriented. For me, it was for people that didn't have access to the social clubs where we have squash courts. But funny enough, we do have a lot of members paying for the outdoor court service we're offering, that they do have access to the private clubs, but they don't want to get into the closed squash court. This has to do with the COVID and all and that we will be living for the next couple of years, I think. So for new people to get them into a squash court, you need to do something like Interactive is doing, but that's really niche.
Yeah.
And so taking it outdoors has really, really made more sense than ever. Seeing these examples of people that they have access to the best social club in El Salvador, and yet they're rather playing a concrete court because they feel safer. They like it. They like the idea of the court. They like everything the court has to offer. So we're really happy with that, because I didn't expect that. I always thought that I was building something for people that didn't have access to these clubs, not necessarily poor people, because you don't have to be poor to not be member of a private club. There's a lot of middle class, upper middle class people, high class that are not members of clubs. So getting the sport out there, I know will get more attention, more players mean more level means a better league, a better ranking, more players and better level means more money, better chances of getting more sponsors. And so I'm really, really convinced that the outdoors, doesn't matter how you build, like as I said in the summit, it doesn't matter how you build the court, but we need as a sport to find different alternatives to play the sport. I've mentioned and I talked about tennis. Tennis has different mini tennis, paddle, pickleball, like a lot of sports that derive from the original sport. Soccer, you have beach soccer, you have indoor soccer. And if you start to analyze a lot of sports, you can play those sports in some sort of level without the need of the regular court.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to do with squash. Another example I came up with the other day, thinking about this, because I'm always thinking, and it's cars, right? So you need a car to move. But right now, we're only building Ferraris and Lamborghinis. I can drive a car and get where I want with a cheap car.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need the Lamborghini or the Ferrari to get there. And right now, ASB and Cortec are Ferraris and Lamborghinis. I love them courts, but you can play squash in other courts. Yeah. You can take a ride in a cheaper car. So that's what I'm trying. I'm not trying to fight or going against them. I think for me, I'm creating a pathway where you start in the cheap courts, you learn to drive, and then you buy your Ferrari.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I'm trying to do. Get kids to learn the game. If you like it, then we will recruit you to come to the regular courts.
Sure.
So it's like, and like I said, like, and many times, like, no one learns to play a sport at the top of the facilities out there. And right now, that's the only option we have. So, and kids give them for granted. I work at a private club also, where we have a 3-wall glass court, beautiful. But kids come in, it's the first day of lessons, and they get into that court. For me, you should earn the right to play at those courts.
Yep.
Not even professionals are playing day to day on those courts, and yet our private kids are playing on those courts, so they give it for granted. Something that doesn't happen with program kids. For them, coming to the club and seeing this, it's very inspiring. So they really want to keep it up so that they can keep coming. So that's what I'm trying to do with the outdoors. And then the short wall is, like I explained at the summit, it has I did a lot of study behind why shaving the sidewalls and doing it short. Safety was one. But then I really believe that I don't need the space I took off of the court. If you really play the game well, I was watching Laguna the whole week. They're already playing under 120, man. Yeah. Like, it makes no difference. The things are that I get is that what if the ball goes out? Hey, the ball goes out, you go get it, man. Like, it's simple. We don't need to complicate it. And kids are okay. The ball flies. Okay, I have another ball. Let's do it. Yeah. So it's been interesting. I'm very proud of what we created, and we'll keep pushing forward on the outdoors and trying to replicate our courts elsewhere. There's a lot of, I don't know if I can really tell about it, but there's 3 countries that are already wanting to replicate the same model. Yeah. So I hope that I can have soon. I can let people know where these courts are being built, but having people email me and call me and meeting up, and it's really inspiring, because at some point I was kind of discouraged because I didn't see a lot of people. Like, people think they know that they need to go to the outdoors, but nobody's taking action. Yeah. So it takes a lot of courage, but slowly a lot of people are getting courageous and are making a bit out the outdoors. I really love what Robert is doing in New York with the steel court. And we need more of those happening, and it will take time, much like paddle, that it took time for it to develop and mature. So I know we'll be seeing a lot of outdoor courts in the future.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And just for everyone watching or listening, be sure to go and follow the Squash Para Todos socials. So they will be in the description or the caption below, wherever you're watching or listening. Get in touch, see if you have something that you can work with Carlos on. By all means, reach out using those social media platforms. So Carlos, lots to break down there. I found it really interesting that you talk about concrete courts. So my dad used to play the game at a semi-professional level back in Pakistan in the 80s and 70s. And his coach was actually the grandfather of Qamar Zaman. So he would tell him to dive on concrete courts left, right, and center, right? Because that's all they had back then. It was too expensive to build a sort of a better quality court than that. So it's almost like we're coming back in that, coming back to the roots, right? And you see a lot of the courts were outdoor back in the day as well. We've talked a lot about that, and people are talking about it again. But what you're doing is a little bit
Yeah.
fairly different.
I learned in concrete floors. The first international players I met, they came to the tournaments we did, international tournaments. They would come, people from New Zealand, Australia, Mexico, Colombia, and that's the only courts we had. So people were playing on them. So we don't need to be afraid of that. I had a conversation with Karim Darwish a couple of months ago, and we were talking about like people are very aseptic about the concrete, and he's like, man, like 30 years ago, all courts were concrete, man. Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
And that's how the sport grew in the 80s. So that I'm not inventing anything.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But what you have obviously done and is quite different, which you touched on earlier, is short wall squash. Now, obviously, what you've done is you've shaved off the sides. You've done a lot of research on what the optimal requirement to play the game, where you need to sort of hit the ball, how you need to direct it, and so on. And you've come up with this idea that you don't necessarily need that top set. But tell me a little bit more about the story. So you did a lot of research, as you mentioned. Can you expand a bit on that and tell me why you think this is a great alternative? And obviously, from what I understand, you've built those courts that you have over there for significantly cheaper than those Ferraris and Lamborghinis that you talk about. And, they're giving you the exact same output. In fact, even better, because they're visible. The barriers of entry are significantly less. People will be able to see them as they go by. So there's much more impact. So tell me a little bit about that.
So we did test. We tested like 6 months. We built like, I don't know if you see, it's like wooden pallets that they're already like a meter 20 height. So that we built them with that and with like a 5mm plywood that I just covered with them. Like I built that was the cheapest squash court ever. It cost me like $200, and we tried it. We gave lessons. We played doubles, and we saw that it worked. Then I went and did the statistics I talked about at the summit, where I found that between 8 and 14, 17% of the time, the ball was hitting on over 120. And most of the times, the player didn't want the ball to hit there. It was a bad shot that either you lost the point or you were under pressure. So these courts are really hard to play at or to begin to play there. But if you learn to play there, doing the transition, you're going to have a lot of fun at the regular court. Now, what really changes is probably the style of play. So you will see a lot of aggressive players because you don't have all the defensive part of the court. So it's probably a little bit more attractive because you don't see those long rallies. It can become a little bit boring sometimes. It's basically any chance the kids have, like they'll go low or they go for the nick because of the fear of hitting the ball out. So what I know that we will develop are really aggressive squash players, which is good. Like it doesn't matter. So, and like we all see this is like starting point. Like, and I've said it gazillion times, to teach a kid to grab a racket, to balance the racket on top of the ball on top of the racket, to do the really first basic things. You don't need a Ferrari, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And just before we finish off, Carlos, and I feel like the conversation can keep running, but in terms of what you're envisioning for the future, you talked a little bit about other countries potentially taking this over, discussions around that front, but even internally within the existing organization, what do you sort of aim for in the near future? Let's say, 2 years down the line, we're in a bit of a post-COVID world. What are you looking for?
So I'm really looking forward so Central America is really small, man. And there's 5 countries within this space. And I work under an NGO called Glasswing International, and they have regional offices in all Central America. So I've always envisioned a regional program. So having Squash Para Todos in all Central America and taking squash through the outdoors to basically Honduras and Nicaragua, where there are no squash courts right now. So to introduce the sport, you have a cheap way to introduce the sport. Then if people like it or whatnot, then maybe you have a reason to build the regular courts, and regular clubs can feed from the people learning the game on these cheap courts. So I really look forward in the next couple of years of seeing our courts and the program in the whole Central America and see what happens afterwards. And like South America, like I know, like I told Argentina, they built the program 100% inspired on us. So if we can inspire more people and create like a network programs that we can have like a tournaments within programs or do exchanges and send students back and forth, that's what I'm looking really forward to. And like I said, especially in the Central American area.
Definitely. Well, Carlos, look, I wish you all the best. And obviously Sportages will be supporting constantly, trying to provide some coverage whenever we can. For everyone watching and listening, once again, be sure to follow Squash Para Todos on social media. Get in touch with Carlos if you think, there's any shape or form through which you can work with the great work that they're doing. And of course, if you missed out on Carlos's chat at the Squash Summit earlier this year, be sure to head on over. The link will be in the YouTube description below to find out a little bit more about what he's been up to. Carlos, once again, thank you so much for your time, mate.
Thank you for your time and considering me and for your support. And I'll be happy to chat any other day. Like you said, I can talk for 2 or 3 hours or 5 hours. Like I'm really passionate about this. I believe what we're doing is right and will help the sport. My idea is to help the sport. First is to help my country with the program I run. Like I'm trying to do something for my people. And then for the sport, I know that this will benefit the sport enormously. And I really hope that more people see it and see the potential. And I really hope to see more professionals, players, incentivizing people to go to the outdoors. I'm not expecting professionals to come play at our courts, but they can say that's a good thing and encourage people to go try it, because if we really need that support from top professionals, because if they say, hey, that's a good idea, people will follow. But if they're not encouraging it, people won't believe it. So this is a call out to all professional players that really support all those outdoor initiatives, because that's how it started. That's how Hashim Khan started playing squash. He was the ball boy of the outdoor squash court. What would have happened to Hashim and all the Khans if we wouldn't have access to that court? So, like I said, like I'm not making anything up new. I'm just trying to replicate something that I know worked in the past.
Absolutely. And everyone, you heard it here. Be sure to get in touch with Carlos. Carlos, thank you so much once again, mate.